What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, since I've finally solved the whining noise underneath the hood, which ended up being the alternator all along, I've noticed another smaller problem creep up on the Land Cruiser. Lately, it's been dropping a couple drops here and there of transmission fluid onto the ground while it's parked. So I think the seal on the transmission pan is finally going out. So what I'm going to do today is drop the transmission pan, clean it all up, and reseal it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, let's go underneath and take a look. So this side is the front of the car, that side's the back. Closer to the engine, you'll see this is the transmission right here, and obviously you can tell there is oil, red oil, coming out from the transmission pan somewhere. It's been dripping on the driveway for a while. So in order to get the transmission pan out, we first need to drain it. This is the drain bolt. I believe it's a 14. And then there's a bunch of little 10 millimeters that go all the way around the pan. And that's how we remove the transmission pan. But before we do any of that, we have to remove the dipstick first, because that sometimes gets caught. So I'll show you where that is right now. Okay, underneath the engine of the hood, this one towards the rear of the engine is the transmission dipstick. You don't actually have to pull it all the way out, just get it away from the pan. I just leave it hanging right there and it should be okay. Since I changed the transmission oil on the Land Cruiser not too long ago, maybe it's been about 3 years, I'm going to try to reuse that fluid. Yeah, you can go and get new fluid and put it in. It's roughly about 3 to 4 quarts in the pan itself. Complete, I think it's like 10 quarts or something if you factor in all the fluid inside the transmission and the torque converter. But in the pan should be about 3 to 4 quarts. Since it's relatively new, I want to go ahead and try to reuse it. I got a brand new drip pan, so that way it's nice and clean. When it comes out, if it looks okay, I can put it back into the car. If yours has many miles on it, then you might want to think about getting new transmission fluid, which in that case I would definitely recommend only the Toyota OEM stuff. So if you're trying to reuse the fluid like I am, make sure you keep it away from anything that might fall in. I'd probably cover it with like a piece of paper or like a piece of cardboard or something, just so it doesn't get contaminated. But as you saw when the fluid was coming out, it was still really clean, so I'm definitely going to reuse this guy. I don't think any water got in here, so we should be okay. There we go. Wow, what a mess. As you can see inside the pan, there was still a lot of fluid in there. It didn't come out of the drain, I guess. So when I pulled the pan down, a lot of it spilt out onto the ground. So there's kitty litter on that right now. So let's save the rest of this fluid. So if you notice, on the original pan, there is this red type of silicone stuff on there. Now, there's always been a debate on if you should use this type of silicone again, or if you should use a rubber silicone, which they sell at AutoZone or O'Reilly's or Napa or something. They're like super cheap. They're like $12. Me personally, if this stuff lasted this long, I would definitely try to reuse it again. So you can see like it's kind of flaky off, it's just dry and old, so that's probably why it failed. But it lasted 20 years, 200,000 miles, and to be honest, for 25 bucks it's not that bad. Make sure you get the one that's for the transaxle case, because this is the one that's red. The other one from Toyota is black, and that one supposedly doesn't hold up against the chemicals as well for the ATF. So definitely get this one, and I will post the part number in the description down below. So next step is we got to clean out all this old gasket, also cleaned from underneath the transmission. Reapply and put it back up. After a lot of cleaning and wire brush, I've got the surface, the mating surface, nice and clean, and we're ready to put on the new gasket. Put this guy back up there. Oop, there's a little bit right there. I gotta clean that up. Underneath the car, the surface is clean too. Now some of these parts are kind of hard to get to, so you definitely want to use a razor blade for most of the areas. The ones that you can't, I noticed a steel wool, the stuff that you clean your pans and pots with, worked really well with the old gasket, and it came right off. After that, you just use either a little bit of acetone or some brake clean off the surface, make sure there's no oil, no ATF on there, and you're ready for the new gasket. Almost forgot to mention, at the bottom of your pan you should have these little magnet pieces. There was 4 of them on the bottom of this pan, and what they do is they well, they're magnets, so they pick up any type of metallic debris, type of the clutch material from the transmission, stuff like that. And what you want to do, you definitely want to clean these guys up with a paper towel, wipe off all the stuff. So you see right here, it's all that black metallic clutch material. And then after they're all clean, make sure you put them back in, because they do help clean. They act as somewhat of a filter to clean up your transmission fluid, and they've worked pretty well so far, so they're going back in. And would you look at that, it's all done. All new packing seal. You can see a little bit on the side squirting out, which is fine. The screw that I wanted you guys to see actually holds the dipstick holder in place, which is this guy right here, and that was the one that I was loosening and tightening before dropping the oil pan, because when you loosen this, it gives it a little bit of wiggle. That way you can pull the you can separate the pan from the actual dipstick itself, the holder, and that way it'll come out really easy. But now I gotta let it sit for a couple hours, I think. I forget. I'm gonna read it on the box. But once it sets, then I'll be able to pour the fluid back in, and we'll be able to see if it leaks anymore. So I've actually waited all night, 12, maybe 16 hours for the gasket to fully cure. I think it should be pretty good by now, and now I'm going to try to pour the transmission fluid back into the transmission. Now I'm using this funnel into the hole where the dipstick goes. This is the way that I usually do it. I don't know if there might be another like fill plug or something, but this is the easiest because it's up high and you can get access to it pretty easily. So hopefully I don't make too much of a mess. Now that most of the transmission fluid is back into the transmission, you got to start up the car, check for leaks, warm up the transmission, and then check how much fluid is in there. Since I spilt a bunch on the floor, there was some in the oil pan, some when I was filling it in. It might have I might have lost a little bit of fluid, but not enough to where it'll hurt the transmission if you start the car, unless you spilt like, you know, 3/4 of the stuff coming out. So let's start it and see what happens. So as I suspected, you know, transmission works perfectly, just as normal. Now we just gotta drive it around, warm up the fluid, and then check the fluid level once again. So next thing you want to do is just come down here, be careful because it's kind of hot, you just drove it, and check for any types of leaks or anything. See if there's a lot of fluid running down. A little bit right here, but this I think is from when I filled it. The gasket looks like it's pretty dry by now. You know, you've got some residue right here from when I didn't clean it very well when I put it back in, but nothing seems to be dripping severely. Back here, these are the 3 bolts, the 310s that are really hard to get, but they're not too bad. So it seems to be okay. Doesn't look like we have a massive leak or anything. And that is it. That's how you drop, clean up, and reseal a transmission pan in a Toyota Land Cruiser or a Lexus LX470. Now, 2 tips I would like to give my viewers is number 1, when you start the job, make sure the truck is parked with the front of the truck slightly elevated. Now what that does is because the drain bolt on the transmission pan is way at the back, that will get most of the fluid out before you even drop the pan. Number 2, always use a lot of cardboard. Regardless how careful you're expecting to be, like I did, you will always make a mess. It just is just how it is. There's always fluid in the transmission pan that you will not be able to get out through the drain bolt. So put down some like, I don't know, paper towels, cardboard, whatever, to save a lot of cleaning in the end like I did. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, and if you want to see more Land Cruiser videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.